welcome to the Culture Cast. Thanks for tuning in today, guys. For those of you who are new, why don't we go around the table and let's just introduce ourselves first off. I am Heley, and I am a junior in Penn State University, currently pursuing a degree in Management Information Systems and Economics.
I'm Nickett. I'm a sophomore, and I am undecided currently, but I'm pursuing business. My friends marvel at how I can dissect a book, and I'm excited to share that with you guys.
Hey everyone, I'm Marie, and I'm a freshman at Penn State pursuing a degree in aerospace engineering.
And my name's Brendan, and I'm a freshman here at Penn State, and I'm pursuing a degree in telecommunications.
Hey, I'm Dana. I'm a freshman here at Penn State, and I'm pursuing a degree in journalism.
And my name is Cody, and I'm a freshman pursuing a degree in mechanical engineering at Penn State.
Alright, so let's get down to it. So today's topic is breaking down a short story, The Indigo Terror by Satyajit Ray. Fun fact, this story was originally written in Bangla, which is a language that originated in southern parts of India and is predominantly spoken around Kolkata.
Actually, before we start getting into this story, do you know anything about Satyajit Ray? Because this is the first time I'm hearing his name.
Yeah, I know quite a lot since I've read a couple of his short stories. Actually, Satyajit Ray was known more for his movies than his short stories. His second job in 1943 was designing book covers in a publishing firm called Nickett Press. And it was these illustrations that he used as subjects for his first movie. And after that, his love for movies soared, and he founded Calcutta Film Society in 1947, where a bunch of directors just came together and watched movies from across the world and studied them just to educate them. And soon after, he started getting recognized for his work, his talent, and he became really successful in his line of work. In 1961, he revived a magazine named Sandesh, and it was in here where most of his short stories were published. It was his way of sort of having another way of telling stories, because he just, throughout his life, he had a really big passion for writing and telling stories in really creative ways. And due to his short stories, Sandesh became an instant hit. In fact, Indigo Terror was published in Sandesh. In fact, Murray, why don't we go ahead and then start telling us about the plot of the story?
So, Indigo Terror
What's indigo?
I believe it's just like a dark blue dye that comes from a plant. Does that sound right?
Yeah.
Guys, yeah? Alright, can I continue?
Yes, thank you.
Okay. So, Indigo Terror starts out, and it just runs through the life of a 23-year-old man named Anurita Bose. And he's living in contemporary India, just living his life. And then it proceeds into this story about how he had this particular dreamlike experience. And the short story starts off telling about Bose's background, and we find out that due to the fact that he's not a fan of the mundane life in Kolkata, he finds enjoyment in running away. And he doesn't even have any friends in his town because he feels so different from everyone. Like, he works a monotonous day-to-day office job for money reasons instead of pursuing his passion for writing. But he's also an expert on the history of indigo production. One day, an old friend sends Bose a letter inviting him to come visit for a few days, and seeing that the drive was only a couple hours and he owned a car, he thought, why not? But interestingly enough, the drive takes him right through the center of an old indigo plantation, and he becomes excited when the view around him is open countryside and blue skies, but soon the skies turn into this horrible storm, and he describes feeling chased by lightning bolts. And unfortunately, the drive took another turn for the worst when he gets a flat tire after he already used his spare earlier in the trip. The storm proceeded, even blinding Bose's view as he drove a few extra miles with the flat. But soon after that, he followed a light to a property nearby to look for a place to stay for the night.
Sorry to interrupt, but I thought the thunderstorm played a big part in the story. I thought the thunderstorm symbolized Bose's thoughts. In the middle of the story, Bose says, "I had always enjoyed storms from the snug corner of my room, but never imagined how menacing the same storm appeared in a moving car in the open countryside." This is symbolizing how in the beginning, Bose thought it would be a good idea to make the trip by himself, but in reality it was much more difficult than he imagined. After all, a neighbor named Bola Babu warns him that he should travel with a driver, but Bose disagrees, seeing himself as a confident driver. This is also an example of foreshadowing that leads to the symbol of the storm. And instead of listening to the wiser man, Bose naively makes the trip and learns the hard way.
Oh yeah, I hadn't even thought of it that way. That's an interesting take on the story. So what happens next?
One more thing. The light that bows follow acts as a foreshadow to a personal revelation. Often in literature, when a character sees a light, they come to a sudden realization about what makes them truly happy and whether or not they are actively pursuing it. With Bose, we clearly see that he has love for writing, not being a merchant. I mean, who dreams about being a merchant anyway?
But he does need to fulfill his financial situation, and he's afraid that writing can't fulfill his materialistic pursuits, as many liberal arts majors are aware of, I'm sure.
Okay, wait. We're getting ahead of ourselves. We can talk about this later. Let's get back to the plot, or else the listeners won't know what we're talking about. So, what happens after the Bose follows light?
Alright, so after he followed the light, he ends up at this house. And this couple greets him with open arms, and they offer him food and a bungalow to sleep in for the night. And so while talking to the couple over dinner, they talk about how the house is haunted, and Bose is actually told that the owner was that he had in fact been an old indigo plantation, but not thinking much of it, he just fell asleep.
Now the story gets interesting.
It all changes when he wakes up suddenly in the middle of the night, to the sound of a dog, and he notices that everything has changed. His belongings are missing, no one's around to be found, and he realizes he's even wearing different clothes than he fell asleep in. And so he decided to find a mirror, and he discovers that he's actually in the body of a 19th century British man. And he notices that while he's in this man's body, it's the man that controls the body's actions. So the man then proceeds to write a letter dating it the 27th of April of 1868, which is exactly 100 years before Honorita Bose left for his trip. The letter then explains that the man does not want to return to England and that his whole family had died, and he goes on to write his worries for his dog Rex and that he won't have a master when the man dies.
The story just turns weird here.
Yeah, but then Bose wakes up in the same room he fell asleep in. Like, everything's the same. His car's fixed, his life's restored, and everything seems normal. But the story does end on the line, would anyone believe the experience I had on the 100th death anniversary of one of Bourbon's indigo tax lords?
Wow. I told you guys that was an awesome story. I mean, Heley, you really found the gem here.
Thank you.
What do y'all think? You
Yeah,
agree?
I think
Definitely.
this is a pretty interesting story.
Good.
What stood out to me was in the dream sequence. The dream sequence offers another look into the life of an indigo tax lord. And here's when we start to see a connection between colonialism and modern-day India.
So what messages could Mr. Ray be trying to show in this story?
Well, Britain had a monopoly on the indigo trade in India at this time, and the tax lords obviously made a pretty handsome profit. Try to picture the Britain politicians from Exile. Do you guys remember that film?
Yeah.
Now picture them in India, reaping the raw resources of the Indian people. And while the Indian citizens were probably not enjoying all of Britain's vast culture, the tax lords were making out like bandits. When we think of the American dream, it is many times synonymous with the capitalistic dream. For Britain at this time, and other leading countries, exploiting foreign lands and people for capital gain is nothing new. How much will we be making at the end of the day, and not a second thought to the Indian people? The ideology is, with money comes happiness. I think many people hear this statement and think, no, money isn't happiness. Love, family, friends, the nights we won't remember with the people we'll never forget. That's happiness. And then it seems as soon as we say that, we go back to work, spending most of our time trying to make as much money as possible. Ignoring what we just said, and probably just browsing pointless social media anyway, looking at more dumb quotes on Tumblr about happiness.
That is basically what Bose was doing. His happiness was a writing, and yet he was pursuing a day-to-day job as a merchant to make money. This is why he was so miserable.
In order to be happy, he would run away, as Maria had mentioned. This whole journey for him was a quest to escape his mundane life, and it unknowingly led into a personal revelation with the dream sequence where the British tax lord was writing the diary. In How to Read Literature Like a Professor by the great Thomas C. Foster, it talks about the elements of a quest, and there are 5 of those elements.
So what are the 5 elements?
Oh, I'm glad you asked. We start with the quester. In this case, it is our friend Bose. The quester's purpose was to visit his friend who lives in another town, and that's the second and third elements. The 4th element of the quest is that the quester needs to experience challenges and trials. In this case, the flat tire and the storm caused him a lot of trouble on this trip, which caused him to pull over and get to element 5, the real reason to go. The real reason to go here was to realize he needs to focus on his passion rather than trivial things like monetary well-being. And this was shown in the dream sequence where the British tax lord was writing the diary.
The diary entry was pretty short and simple. I picked the part where he begins. Percy and Tony had already left. I guess my lust for money exceeds theirs, and that's why despite frequent malaria attacks, I just could not give up my desire for indigo. I know I had to stay here, and I will probably die here. I'm destined to rest beside my wife Mary and my 3-year-old son Toby's grave. I have tortured the natives so much there will be nobody to shed one tear after my death. Oh, except Merjan. Merjan could cry, my loyal and dear butler. And Rex. I am really worried about my Rex, my dog, a devoted follower to his master. After my death, they would probably stone you to death or kill you with blows of their sticks. I thought this was a pretty pleasant diary entry. The tax lord is not enjoying the fruits of his labor. His friends ran away. His family died. Don't worry, the dog doesn't get stoned or beaten with sticks. The tax lord just shoots him in the head to spare the pain.
I'm actually starting to question what our Indian writer's thinking about this situation. Like, do you think he's sorry for the tax lord, or does he deserve the life he's given?
And I think that brings out the underlying theme of this story. Money is not synonymous with happiness. If you spend your life chasing this thought, odds are you won't find it. Stories are constantly written to remind us of this, and we understand them clearly, but we just ignore it.
Now hold on a second. I don't necessarily agree with the theme of the story here. I mean, I think it's a nice message, don't get me wrong. But in today's society, money certainly helps to experience the pleasures in life. I don't know if any of you watch the show Parks and Rec, but a character named Tom Haverford, played by Aziz Ansari, says a quote that really resonates with me. And that quote is, "Sometimes you gotta work a little so you could ball a lot."
Yeah, I agree that money definitely it definitely helps with making life comfortable and helping relieve stress and enjoy the luxuries, but you really shouldn't prioritize it over family and friends.
Exactly. I mean, money certainly helps lead a comfortable life, but in my opinion, it does not correlate directly with any form of happiness. I mean, look around the world. There are people who are way worse off than us, who don't have as much luxuries as we do, and they are, more happy than us. I mean, it could be due to the fact that they don't have as much luxuries, so they can really do what they want and pursue their passions.
Just like the main character in Tomboy, who was in pursuit of happiness, which is why she transformed into Michael. She went after what she wanted, and she didn't worry about the consequences. She was just being herself, just what you would do, what you expect as a 9-year-old to be.
Well, you wouldn't expect a 9-year-old to worry about consequences, unlike Bose, who is worried about his future and doesn't want to just give it all away. Which is why he chose to have a relatively stable and rather boring job rather than taking a chance that might end up with him losing all of his money. Maybe we could all take a page out of the courage that Mikhail showed in Tomboy and focus more on following our passions.
Yeah, I guess you guys are right. There are limitations on how happy money can make you.
So we all agree that money doesn't buy happiness?
Wrong! Unless you buy a jet ski. Have you ever seen any money on you happy on a jet ski? No. Unlike money, jet skis are synonymous with happiness.
True.
Alright then. I think we are done here for today, folks. That was all for today's Culture Cast. I'm going to head out and buy myself some happiness now. Oh, sorry. I meant a jet ski.